I'm Kyle Olson, founder of The Midwesterner. I'm at Marlena's Bistro in Holland, Michigan, where I'm meeting with statewide candidates and others asking for your vote in 2026.
Marlena Hackney left communist Poland in the 1980s for a life in America. She opened Marlena's Bistro in Holland. When Gretchen Whitmer began issuing lockdown orders in 2020, Marlena refused to close. She was arrested and jailed for trying to keep her business afloat. That didn't stop her. She's still serving the Holland community every day. My guest today is Mike Cox. He served as Attorney General from 2003 to 2011, the same years Jennifer Granholm was governor. As AG, he implemented bans on affirmative action policies in government. He's the only Republican candidate for governor who's been elected statewide, not once, but twice.
So you were last elected in 2006.
That's right.
20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Why
A bad year for Republicans, but I won.
Why are you doing this now?
My parents are immigrants. In fact, my mom just died last night, and
Sorry to hear that.
and they came to America because it's the greatest nation, and they came to Michigan because it's the greatest state and the greatest nation. And that was a time when someone like my dad, who was a carpenter, and my mom was a maid, they could buy their own home, in a safe street, good neighborhood schools, and they could think that all their kids would do better than them. And the Michigan we're in right now, that isn't the case, and I've done very well in Michigan. I've spent 13 years as a prosecutor in Wayne County, loved it. Was elected Attorney General, closest statewide race. They used to call me the accidental Attorney General. And then I went out and started my own business, did very, very well. And, my grandchildren live in Mississippi. And right after COVID, I started paying more attention to education. Because I had some employees and some people in my neighborhood whose children struggled during COVID. And my granddaughters in Mississippi flourished, because they were never off that second year of COVID, in school instruction. And then I realized that Mississippi was building this incredible education system. And Laura and I, when my daughter first moved there, we used to scream at her almost weekly, you're gonna ruin your daughters having them grow up in Mississippi. And shit, we were wrong, And fortuitously, it's been great for them. But I want the rest of the state, the kids in the rest of the state, to have what my granddaughters have.
So your campaign's put a big focus on education.
Yes.
You were the only Republican candidate that went to the MEA conference. What was that experience like? Why did you do that?
Look, I won twice statewide because I went areas other Republicans wouldn't go, right? First time I won, top of ticket lost, I won, narrowly. And the second time, it was the same sort of thing. I won by 11% because, look, in Wayne County and Democrat areas, they're like the people I grew up with, right? I spent 13 years in what was called Recorder's Court. It was all Detroit court, right? My clients, by and large, were African American. I was one of the few white Americans in the courtroom many, many times. And so I don't have a problem talking to folks who don't look like me, don't think like me, and have different beliefs than me. And I feel that's just integral. If you're going to be governor, you have to have the cojones to actually go do that.
Mm-hmm. But what was that? There was, we reported there was some hostility.
Yeah, that's okay.
What was that experience like?
It was good. Look, probably 35% of the MEA are Republicans.
That's right.
Right.
People don't know that.
And people don't know that, right? Mm-hmm. And the MEA's lost a big chunk of their members over the past 15 years. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to turn education around, teachers are part of it, right? It's my kids went to Catholic school, but I'm a believer in public schools, right? I'm a believer in charter schools, homeschooling, all options. But successful states have strong public school systems.
Right.
And so, you know, sharing ideas and being booed or laughed at, that's just part of the journey.
So you're in a situation where you were a Republican Attorney General,
Right.
who served under a Democrat governor.
Never under, okay?
Okay,
Separate
well,
office, right?
But I'm just saying,
Serve
at
with.
the same time. serve
Same
with,
time.
okay. Fair enough. And so you were up close and personal to what Michigan was like
Right.
at that time, and it's called the Lost Generation, or the
Lost
Lost Decade.
Decade,
Lost
yeah.
Decade. Compare that time in Michigan to what we're living with today.
Yeah, it's largely the same. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, right? We just got past the Super Bowl. You know, there's old Bill Parcells. You know, he helped the Giants win 2 Super Bowls. He always had a saying, "You are what your record says you are." So we're 48th in education. We lost the most jobs in America last month in January. You know, we've been dwelling second, third, or fourth in terms of unemployment rates in a bad way, right? So you could say 46, 47, 48th in job creation. And, you know, so it's largely the same issues as it was before Snyder came in, right? It was the economy, education, and then the third E, which comes about when you have a bad economy, bad education system, immigration with the E, meaning kids leaving, right? And 3 of my 4 children live outside of the state, right? Because there's more opportunity, more economic dynamism, but I firmly, you know, when you run for office, as you know, it really is, you know, it's a venture in optimism in many respects. Sure, politics, you know, you have a lot of slings and arrows, but ultimately it's about a belief that we can do better and we must do better. So having lived through and been in office during the lost decade, I think is great training. Why? Look, the size of our government's way out of control, right? If the governor's new budget goes through, she'll have increased the budget $31 billion, 54%.
How does that happen?
It happens when you don't have any elected officials who have a bully pulpit. It's a little bit different now that Matt Hall's there, but not having a statewide to speak out and help set an agenda for the media, both, you know, the mainstream old style media and new media, that makes a difference, right? And so we're replicating what we did before. But the great thing for me, it was great training in this regard. Our caseload went up. The demand for our services went up, as you'd expect during a one-state recession, right? Almost 10%. Went up to handling 45,000 cases each and every day. And at the same time, I had to shrink my staff, and I shrunk my staff by 21%. And here's the reality. We're not going to fix Michigan if we have this bloated state government, especially in the era of AI. And you know, and so it's going to be you right-size state government, and you obviously grow freedom and prosperity. You know, I think that's a rock-solid conservative principle, but I think common sense tells us that as well.
There was a proposal that was just floated to create a sales tax, basically, on luxuries. And that was basically done in exchange for a state property tax cut. Have you, I guess, what do you think about that? Because I have been under the impression...
Against it. Sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Look, I think Matt Hall deserves a lot of praise for moving the ball and checking the governor. Look, we still haven't solved all the ghost jobs situation, right? We still have a situation where we're going to give out $250 million in cash for the RX kits, right? And the Democrats want the whole world to think, oh, we're calling it's for children, right? And I'm like, if it's a great program, why does it have to be cash, right? There's no accountability there. My point being, when I was AG and going after Medicaid fraud, I literally had to fight with the Department of Health and Human Services to help them save and recover money. So I think we ought to focus first on spending reforms, let's get that side of the balance sheet fixed before we talk about, I can't even contemplate raising any tax. That's not our problem, right? We need to pull back as much as we can of that $30 billion. You think about this, is the governor, was going to give $800 million to Ford for the battery plant in Marshall, right? Why don't you just give us the $30 billion back? That's like a huge job incentive. We'll figure it out. It's like here at Marlena's, if she didn't have to, if she got her money back, or if we eliminated income tax, which is, I've been the first guy talking about that, right? I ran a small business at 24 employees, right? And probably much like Marlene, she probably has a few more. Small business people, there's 900 small businesses in Michigan. They create 2/3 of all the jobs, right? They are huge employers. If they are taxed as what's called an S corporation, right? So their corporate tax is what the state income tax rate is. You eliminate that, she's going to get new pizza ovens. She's going to hire another manager, maybe expand, maybe think about another restaurant. That's where economic, where the biggest job creating dynamics are. So my point is, getting back to your question, is we have a lot of spending cuts to take care of first.
You represented survivors of Dr. Robert Anderson,
right?
Who was a doctor at the University of Michigan and assaulted student athletes.
Right.
Talk about that experience.
It was. I want to choose my words carefully. It was one of the professional highlights for me as a lawyer. We built a team of 63 lawyers representing 1,078 survivors, and 70% of them were athletes. And it was great because the team helped bring some closure to people. It was great because we held an elitist, snobbish university to account, because he did what he did for 3 decades with no one checking. He got fired twice and brought back. But even more recently, the recent administration, including the current AD, they knew about the cover-up a year and a half before it came out publicly. And they haven't been fully held to account. But we brought closure. We made a statement about standing up to elitist universities. And quite frankly, I felt like I was a prosecutor again. I got to wear the white hat. And it was a big challenge. They hired top guns from D.C. and we beat them for the right cause.
It's not just about financial settlements.
Right.
What sort of accountability should survivors and taxpayers, because it's ultimately a taxpayer-funded university, what sort of accountability should they expect from state government, from the university, and those sorts of things?
Well, obviously transparency has been an ongoing issue with state government, but more so with universities, because we have this odd constitutional quirk that they're quasi-independent. They use that to, think that they're an NGO operating in the Sudan and can take billions of dollars and use it whatever way they want, right? As governor, I'm gonna, I can't, it's unlikely to change the constitutional provision on universities, right? At least not early on. But I'm certainly going to use the power of purse to force more reforms, more transparency. You talk to anyone, and I'm sure you guys have done it at the Midwesterner, you try to FOIA a university and you never get it, right? You always have to sue. For what is supposed to be an institution of higher learning and enlightenment, enlightenment generally, shining the light on things, they are opaque morass, a murky swamp.
Let's talk about the race a little bit. Why do you think you're the best candidate to go against what we think is probably going to be Jocelyn Benson?
Easy. I beat Democrats. I've never lost to a Democrat, right? If you think about it, you think about Mike Rogers running for the open Senate seat. It's an open Senate seat because Gary Peters is stepping out, right? I'm the only Republican who ever beat Gary Peters, and I beat him with less money. Quite frankly, I was on the Trump agenda before Donald Trump came on the scene, right? I'm the guy.
How so?
Well, I'm the guy who, when I found out the Secretary of State's office, and it was run by a Republican then, was issuing driver's license to illegals, I stopped it, right? I issued Attorney General opinion. Every 2 years, the Democrats introduced bills to undo what I did, right? So if you care about, if, you know, the president said the other day, please stand up if you care more about citizens than illegal aliens. You know, I planted my flag in that years ago, right? Another big issue that Donald Trump had, you know, in terms of tariffs, size of government taxes, his next big issue in this campaign 2024 was DEI, right? So I was the only Republican who would stand up with the organizers of the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative. There was a couple others, Candace Miller, and I stood with them, I helped them out, and the whole media, organized media was against us, outspent 9-1, and we won, right? For a simple proposition that merit matters, right? That we shouldn't discriminate on the basis of race, sex, gender, or anything else in terms of government contracts, admissions to schools, hiring decisions. Now, of course, for the past 7 years, you know, the terrible triplets have been ignoring that, right? But we're going to bring that back. But those are the kinds of things those are kind of issues that Donald Trump used to touch, and you know, he has a great intuitive sense of what regular working folks like and care about. And for a guy who grew up a millionaire's kid, I'm always impressed, right? I learned it by growing up the son of a carpenter, right? In a working class neighborhood where no one had a college degree. And I still tap into that. My brother-in-law, in a couple hours, he's gonna go do the afternoon shift at Dearborn Truck, you know, making F-150s. So those are the people I see at Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, is like the folks that made the difference for Donald Trump, and they made the difference for me when I ran before. So that's number one. Number two is, when I got in office, I did big things, right? Talking about, you know, talking about driver's license, taking driver's license away from illegals, you know, affirmative action ban. I fought the utilities when the legislature and Governor Granholm went saved ratepayers over $3 billion. I went after internet predators, arrested over 252, and created this Michigan Cyber Safety Initiative, which educated hundreds of thousands of kids, you know, 15, 20 years ago when people were still internet curious, right? You know, I went after Medicaid fraud. I had to fight with Governor Granholm. She wouldn't cooperate. We recovered $200 million in Medicaid fraud, put people in jail. So though I take on big fights, right? It's just my training as a Marine, as a homicide prosecutor. You know, inadvertently, those two experiences became my best training to be in politics.
Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Good
Kyle.
to see you.
Great seeing you.